Hi everybody, welcome back to Between the Lines. My name is Julian, I'm an obsessive reader and used book collector, and welcome to my first weekly-ish update. For a while now, I've been thinking about doing more frequent update videos just to kind of fill you in on what I've been reading or up to or plan on reading. And I put one out at the beginning of last week, but I actually shot that about 2 weeks ago. So I figured maybe if I was gonna try to do this update thing and post them more frequently, that, it was time to do one. So let's get into it. So this video today is gonna kind of touch on, a recap of the stuff I did last week, what I was reading, what I'm reading now, and kind of what's on the rest of my TBR for the end of the year. We're in November now, and there's only about 8 weeks left in the year. So for me being about a book a week reader, that's 8-ish books I'll be able to read by the end of the year, maybe less when I talk about the books that I'm actually reading, but I wanted to put sort of an optimistic or ideal TBR list that I'll hopefully accomplish by the end of 2021. So let's talk about last week. What happened last week? It was a very hectic week for me. I usually only put out 2 videos a week max because that's kind of the most I can do. These videos take a bit of work, especially when I put B-roll and stuff like that into it. And to put 3 videos out in 1 week was a lot, but there was a good reason for it. And that was because I wanted to put out my Rebels Creed video out for release day. And that was an opportunity I didn't think I was gonna be able to do. Daniel Green sent me an advanced review copy about a week before, and I was still reading Frankenstein at the time, and I didn't really want to just drop it and start Rebels Creed and film the video. So I kind of rushed through the end of Frankenstein. I still enjoyed it a lot, actually. That book is a classic for a reason. It was so good. So I did 3 videos in about a week, and it was a lot, but the Rebels Creed video is doing great, and it's actually my best performing video on this channel by a wide margin. It's still getting quite a bit of views pretty consistently since I put it out. And I thought that after finishing, the book Rebels Creed and finishing the videos, I would maybe take a few days off from reading. But then I remembered that one of my goals for 2021 was to finish the completed works of H.P. Lovecraft by the end of October. And I had The Shadow Out of Time, which was about 50 pages, and The Haunter of the Dark left. And I think that last story was about 18 to 20 pages. So I read Shadow Out of Time Friday, Saturday, Haunter of the Dark in a couple hours just on Sunday on Halloween, and I finished the completed works of H.P. Lovecraft. This has been a process for me that's taken about 3 years. I started reading the completed fiction in that set I bought in 2018, and it's taken me now to Halloween 2021 to finally finish his works. I know there's a couple stories that aren't included in there that are some of the collaborations he did with other writers, but I'm not super interested in reading those. I've read the essential solo Lovecraft proper works and was a little sad to finish them, but I know there's some other works out there that other authors have done that have been inspired by H.P. Lovecraft. One of them was actually just discussed by Bookish Chaz on his channel. It's called the Cthulhu Casebooks, I think, which is a mashup of Sherlock Holmes and the Cthulhu mythos, the works of H.P. Lovecraft. It sounded a little gimmicky, and I wasn't super interested in reading those, but after hearing his discussion, which I'll link below, I'm kind of interested in reading them now. There's also the Alan Moore comic book series that was involved with the Cthulhu mythos that I'm probably also going to read at some point if I could get my hands on them. And I'm not even completely done with his works. I will say that I'm gonna read the Call of Cthulhu again, but do it in audio format. That was the first Lovecraft story I ever read. I didn't even read it in this book. It was years ago in another book I had, but it's been long enough now that I don't really remember a lot about the story. And the podcast I listened to about H.P. Lovecraft, the H.P. Lovecraft Literary Podcast, has done a few readings of his major stories, and I'll be listening to their version of the Call of Cthulhu and then listening to their recap episodes again. So now let's get to what I've been currently reading, and if you've been following my channel, you know that I've been hyping up reading The Wheel of Time since I started, and on November 1st, I finally started The Eye of the World. I'm about 150 pages into this, and the hype was not lying. I am enjoying it so much. It's just pure, classic fantasy vibes. It's got, this big epic prologue that I wasn't expecting, where there's a lot of questions raised and a lot of interesting things set up. And then it gets into sort of like a super tropey, but also great story about a farm boy who realizes, his place in the world might be bigger than the little town he's grown up in. And I'm just really enjoying it so far. The story finally just kicked off, and I can't wait to see how this story evolves themselves going forward. And this is just book one. Like, I'm already hooked on this thing, and I know there's 14 other books that I'll have to read after this, and I'm so happy that I started this series. But this is a big investment for me. I don't read a ton of giant books. Kind of the biggest books I've read in the last little while were the Dark Tower series, and I don't even think the longest book in that one is as big as The Eye of the World, and I know there's more in the Wheel of Time that are even bigger than that. So I'm taking my time with this story and really trying to drink in all the details and learn about the world at an organic pace, not go through it too fast or too slow. I don't know if I'm going to go right into the next one though. I think that I'll take some time to kind of digest this and wait a little bit before I read The Great Hunt. I think that that second book is getting adapted into the first season of the Wheel of Time show as well, so I may want to read it for when those episodes come out in December. But for right now, I'm just planning on reading The Eye of the World and then letting it kind of, digest a little before moving forward. Also, when going through a big series, I like to listen to discussion podcasts that kind of recap chapter by chapter what's going on, and especially in podcasts where there's a person who's reading the series for the first time. I did this with The Lord of the Rings for the Dark Tower as well, where I listened to the Kingslingers podcast, which was great, and one of the hosts there was going through the series for the first time, just like I was. And now for the Wheel of Time, I found the Wheel Weaves podcast, and I've listened to a few episodes based on the chapters that I've read in The Eye of the World, and it's been great so far having one person who's read the series a bunch of times and one person who's reading it for the first time like me to kind of, go through it in a spoiler-free way, talk about what they think is happening and what everything means. And I'm really enjoying it so far, and I'll definitely link that show below. And I think the hosts are also Canadian as well, so that's a plus. Alright, so what am I reading for the rest of the year? Like I said earlier, there's not that much time left in 2021, and only so many books I can read in those remaining weeks. Since I'm estimating that The Eye of the World is going to take me about 10 days to 2 weeks, it cuts down that number by a few, but my ideal goal for right now is to finish The Eye of the World, maybe read The Great Hunt, definitely catch up on the Dresden Files audiobooks. I finished Ghost Story a few days ago. That one took me a little while to get through. I think I was still on a Changes hangover, and that one I just, it was a little different and not what I expected, and considering it had a different audiobook narrator, took me a while to get through. I enjoyed it, I think, in the end overall, but it was a little bit different and took me 2 weeks to get through the whole thing. So I'm on cold days now. I haven't started reading it yet, but I think once I'm done The Eye of the World, I'll go back to Dresden, maybe go through a couple of those, and hopefully finish Battleground by the end of the year. And as for the short story collections that I haven't read from the Dresden Files, I think I'll save those for next year when, I'm waiting for the next book to come out and need that little hit of the Dresden Files. I also plan on finishing the Foundation book series. I read the first book a couple of years ago and I enjoyed it. It wasn't necessarily as good as I, Robot, also by Isaac Asimov, but I had a good time with the book. I like that problem-solving sort of storytelling, and I have the books 2 and 3 of the original trilogy and just want to finish them. So I think, when I'm looking for a change-up from The Wheel of Time and the Dresden Files, that I'll get into books 2 and 3 of that. Alright, in terms of other stuff I'm kind of into, sometimes, I'm playing a good video game or I've seen a good movie. Last night I wanted to mention that I saw Last Night in Soho, the new Edgar Wright movie. It was pretty good. It was one of the first few experiences I had back in a theater since you're able to go back into theaters. I haven't had too many bad experiences since I've gone back. I know a lot of people are kind of sick of theaters even though they haven't been there for a while. The only bad experience I had was having this teenage couple talking when I was watching The Green Knight. I think they were in the wrong movie and just were super bored, but my experience watching Last Night in Soho was pretty good. There was no annoying people or anything like that. The movie itself was pretty good. I mean, I'm a fan of Edgar Wright's filmography, and I definitely saw the inspiration in this movie that he's talked about, where it came from a lot of Italian horror movies from the 70s, especially with the lighting and the camera movements and all that. The movie itself was, it was fun, it was thrilling, it was entertaining, and had a great soundtrack, but I don't think it was my favorite of his movies. I still think that's Hot Fuzz. I don't know if you can ever beat Hot Fuzz. I could watch that movie on repeat for eternity and just not get tired of it. So this is what I've been up to, this past week and a half since I released my last update video. I hope this format works for you. We'll see when I do the next one. I may do it next week. I may do it in 2 weeks. We'll see if I have anything new to talk about. I guarantee you by the end of next week, I'm still gonna be reading The Eye of the World. So if I have anything to talk about by then, I'll make another one of these. So in the comments, let me know if you're reading anything good. You know, are you reading The Wheel of Time like I am in preparation for the show? Are you reading something else? And what's left on your TBR for the end of the year? Let me know if you have as many books as I do, or if you have a more conservative, kind of realistic estimate of the amount of books you're gonna be able to read by the end of next month. So remember to do all the YouTube stuff like liking, subscribing, leaving a comment. Thanks for watching. Please remember to support your local library, and I'll see you next time.